All right. I am going to make a better version of the idea thread or the idea video that I made before, but I'm going to be using information from my idea thread on ZeniMax Online Studios website for the game, the forum I mean. And I, I'm not the greatest player, but I have enough time in this game where I think I can make a pretty good uh, argument about some things here. So I'm going to start by saying that I have been posting on the forums about the Necromancer just like I have for the Red Guard for a long time, asking for buffs. And over time, my ideas have changed. I believe they've gotten better. And especially due to what I've seen Zos do with the Arcanist class. As I stated on the forums, one thing that Zos has been doing lately is making skills require less micromanagement and loading them with multiple functions. This is the same treatment that the Necromancer needs. Let me also state that when I play this class, I'm not giving you the opinion of somebody who plays with a lot of weapon skills. I play the class using the class skills. The only thing I maybe that's non-class skills is race against time and executioner. Sometimes I'll put on degeneration or entropy, structure entropy, just to have a sticky dot. And that highlights one of the problems with the class. In order to really be successful with the class, you have to use non-class skills. You have to. Even the class having a dot passive, rapid rot, increases your damage done with damage over time effects, is wasted when the class doesn't have a sticky dot in its kit. You have to go outside of the class to get a dot in order to even really take advantage of that passive. And that shows a flaw with the design. When they made the Arcanist class, they knew what the class needed in order to be successful. And they gave the class what it needed to be successful. Now you could argue that they could use another dot, but they don't really need Master's Dual Wield. I see plenty of Arcanists do well without Master's Dual Wield in the Evade Ice Staff. That's just the easiest way to play. That's the easiest way to dominate, I mean. Because proc sets will carry really, really hard. And that's another thing. When I'm giving you my assessment of the Necromancer class, I'm also not giving you the perspective of somebody who uses sets that do damage or heal for me. So I'm giving you the perspective of the class using mostly only what the class brings, not what the sets bring or not what weapon skills bring. So having said all that, let's get on with some of these ideas. Now the recent change that ZeniMax made to the class is taking away stalking blast bones and changing it to sacrificial blast bones, the sacrificial Gravelord sacrifice. That's what it's called, Gravelord sacrifice. And that is where basically instead of your blast bones coming out and hitting the target, it jumps to you and gives you a dot increase, or a damage over time increase, and also a increased damage with class skills. Okay, that's fine. But again, if the class skills are flawed, you're not going to be able to take advantage of that, because what class skills are you going to use on this? I have Mystic Siphon on here, and that is mostly to try to take advantage of another passive, which is Death Knell and Dismember. Both of these depend or benefit from having as many Gravelord Sacrifice skills. I'm sorry, not Gravelord Sacrifice. As many Gravelord skills on the bar as possible, so that skill is there. And also, again, like I said, I'm trying to make use of the class skill. So for the most part, this is going to be my dot right there. And there are times when I'm trying to activate that tether and I can't activate it, or sometimes I do activate it, but I quickly have to move or have to line of sight and the tether breaks. And so I'm going to get to that. I'm going to talk more about that in a minute. But back to Blast Bones. So the reason why they changed it is, according to them, the skill had a clunky rotation, I guess. So people who were, doing their rotation. I love how easily they are proc burning there. That's another thing that really sucks from losing blighted. Not blighted, but stalking Blast Bones, losing that chance to proc burning damage. But anyway, so they say the rotation is too clunky, doing it every 3 seconds or whatever it was. So they took that and changed it into a different skill altogether. But as I have seen someone post on the forum, a better idea would have been to keep at least this one, Stalking Blast Bones, because it's the higher damage Blast Bones. It is by far the higher damage between the two morphs. So they could have taken the other skill, Blighted Blast Bones, the Stamina morph, which does Defile or disease damage and procs Defile, taking that one and turn that one into a dot. When you would summon it, it would hit, do some initial damage, and then do damage over time. When that happens, you don't have to recast the skill as many times. You don't have to cast it every 3 seconds. You wait for the dot to do its damage, and then you cast it again. And then we could, in that way, we can have a difference between the morphs. You have one that's a dot. You have a sticky dot in your kit, which we don't. Necromancer doesn't have now, and also you get to keep, if you want to, the Stalking Blast Bones morph. So that would have been a much better idea, but they didn't do that. Now I have here my Skeletal Archer. There are 2 morphs for this skill. You have the Archer and you have the sorry, this is the Arcanist, or as the game will say, the Skeletal Spellbinder. So you have one who does AoE damage. That's this morph, the one I have now, the Spellbinder, and you have the one that does single target damage. Single target damage is fine when you're in a one-on-one situation, but if you are in a situation where you have multiple opponents, you would rather take this morph, the AoE morph. So that's more useful for PvE. So what they could have done is, instead of taking Stalking Blast Bones and turning it into Gravelord Sacrifice, instead of doing that, they could have taken one of the morphs of this skill, because I don't see a lot of people use these skills, especially not the Archer, the single target version. And One of the reasons why is because as it is right now, these skills don't do much damage at all. So let me just continue to let you see what he's doing. So it's technically not a dot, it's a pet, but he's hitting like a dot, but it's technically not a dot. However, the damage is pretty, I mean, against a target dummy, it looks okay, but against a player, that's pathetic, you know. It's barely noticeable. So these summons don't do a whole lot for you. They don't give you a lot of incentive to use these pets. What do you get besides sort of a damage over time tick from them? Nothing else. You get the passive, the reusable parts, death nail and dismember, but that's pretty much it. The class lacks major buffs, and if you were to tie a major buff to having this skill, at least I would say activate it, but maybe even just on your bar. But if you got major sorcery and major savagery, or just major sorcery from having the pet, then you would actually want to run it. You would actually choose this over choosing a weapon skill, or choosing it over degen, or one of those other skills that gives you a dot in or major sorcery. And that reminds me, I forgot as well, because about the siphon also doesn't give you a whole lot for having it. With the Arcanist, a skill like this that gives you, while sliding, your damage done is increased by 3%. A skill like this would affect on both bars. That's what they've done for Arcanist, and the Necromancer needs the same treatment. This passive should carry over to both bars, and not only that, but there should be a crit bonus attached, not a crit bonus, crit buff attached to this skill. So I would recommend having your major savagery and major prophecy, which is the crit bonus buff, the major buff, and attach that to the siphon just for having it on your skill, and that should translate to both bars regardless of which bar it's on, just like they did for the Arcanist. And I will put major prophecy and major brutality, which is the spell and weapon damage bonus, on the summons. Again, as for Blast Bones, you could have had one morph become a dot and one morph remain as the burst. Another problem with having with taking away the higher damage morph and leaving us with the Defile version is, while Defile is fine for PvP, for PvE you're not going to have a whole lot of mobs or monsters that are healing. So instead of getting a chance to proc burning, which is more damage, you get Defile. Defile is pretty much worthless against a bunch of monsters. See, this monster isn't healing up. I don't have to hit him with Defile. So the decision is really mind-boggling. It's hard to wrap my mind around. So moving on from that point, though, and recapping really briefly: major prophecy, major brutality on the Arcanist or on the summon, the crit bonus on the siphons, and turning one of the Blast Bones morphs into a dot. And also, another thing that they didn't do that they probably should have done was changing this skill so that the cost would scale, or yeah, dynamically with your highest resource. So if you had a higher stam pool, then it would pull from your stam. If you had a higher mag pool, it would pull from your magicka to activate it. But what they did was they just reduced the cost of it a lot, and so it still costs stamina, but it's really, really cheap. However, that's still something that you have to account for, that you have to build for, even if it's only a little bit. And so that's a nerf. So not only do you take a damage nerf off the skill, but now you have to actually build a little bit differently to sustain it, and that is another nerf for you as far as your damage goes. So another idea that I have for the siphons. So while you have it, here, let me do it this way. I can't change the morph, but I can show you just an example of how the siphon is. So for the Mystic Siphon, which is the magical morph, I would be fine. Look at this. This thing isn't even hitting. Do you see this? That's another thing. This AoE is pathetic. Look how small it is. Look how small. I just dropped blast bones right next to him and hit the tether, and it's not hitting him. Case in point, this is a problem that we have with this class. But anyway, so this tether is fine on the ground. I'm going to keep this one this way where it's on the ground. Of course, now you see that the radius needs to be made bigger as well. But for the stamina morph, just to differentiate it, for that one, instead of sticking to the ground, the damage AoE should stick to your body. You see how it tethers, but instead of the AoE being over there, the AoE would be on me. And so I would have it following me and attached to me. And if I get closer, you know, just like now, the boss should be taking damage because the AoE is stuck to me. So that's one way to differentiate the morphs. They should do that. And another thing about this morph, what was the other idea that I had? I'm trying to remember what it is. Oh yeah, so not just this tether, but all tethers. Let me see if I can make another morph here, or another corpse. So here we have, I'm using Mortal Coil now. That's a health tether, and I'm using two tethers now. Ideally, as soon as I activate that tether right there, I should get the effects of it. So if I kite, if I line of sight, and that tether breaks just like it did now, that the effects should remain on me until the duration is finished. The effect should not break. I activated the skill, the effect should stay on me. So as soon as it activates, so let's look at what some of those effects are. So for the Mystic Siphon, you gain 150 health, magicka, and stamina recovery. It says while siphoning the corpse. But if that tether breaks, then you lose that recovery. By my idea, as soon as you activate that, you've already started getting the resources, and it's going to continue even if the tether breaks. So for the Mortal Coil, it heals you for 15,606 over 12 seconds, and you restore 170 magicka stamina every 2 seconds. As soon as you hit that tether, it should activate, and it should stay on you regardless of if the tether breaks or not. So let's just say the tether broke right now. I was in a fight and the tether broke. Those effects should stay on me. One of the problems that people say they have with Necromancer is the micromanagement of buffs. buffs are short, and they have to constantly be paid attention to and reapply. And I do like that. That is a challenge. It's a mini game, so you have to fight your opponent and also make sure you are, taking care of your tethers and your buffs during the fight. And I kind of like that challenge, to be honest. It makes the class feel different from other classes. But the payoff is not there. The payoff has to be there. And right now the payoff is not there from using these skills. I don't have the, let's see here. Let's see if I have this morph. Nope, I don't have the flame skull morph on. But a way to buff this skill would be to have it automatically apply the burning status effect, a guaranteed proc, or if you choose a stamina morph, the guaranteed poison status effect. That would help make those skills worth using. And speaking of skills being worth using, the main spammable, which is what is Bone Tyrant, the Hungry Scythe. This is what I have here. The other morph is the Ruinous Scythe. Okay, the dot, not the dot, but the heal over time is nice. It's nice to have. But really, this thing feels like it hits like a wet noodle. Now, when you see that little explosion right there, that was my set proc, and that was the Kind Marchers. So the set debuffs the opponent. So now I've debuffed them with Breach. Now the Scythe itself doesn't do any of those things. The Scythe itself is just a little bit of damage, and that's the problem with this thing. It doesn't do anything else. So when you're in a fight, you know what? Maybe I should put on D-Swing just to show the difference. Yeah, I'll put on Dizzy Swing. Where's my two hand? There we go. Now, I used to play more of a hybrid style with Necro, with this character. Now, I could pick Wrecking Blow or Dizzy Swing. Both of these are honestly good. Both of these have great effects. This one, Dizzy Swing, sets the opponent off balance, and Wrecking Blow gives you major berserk after casting. But just to look at how I'm gonna take the siphon off just to use this right quick. Now, when you're in a fight and you hit him with that scythe, sometimes I can swing it. There's barely any damage noticeable, or there's barely any way for me to tell that I hit him. But when that D swing hits him, there's impact, and not only that, but they're snared, and they're it's like they feel it, D swing can be really oppressive sometimes, and so this is nothing. They're running through that and they're just going to keep going. So there needs to be another effect on the scythe, either a snare, which seems fair to me, and not just that, but an execute. Now, this is not my idea. I've seen this suggested on the forums as well. The scythe, thematically it fits too. What do you do with a scythe? You reap, right? So I have to use Executioner weapon skill because the Necro does not have an execute. The passive, what is it? I'm trying to remember I forgot the passive name now. Death Nail, which gives you a bonus amount of crit chance based on how many Necro skills you have on the bar, or based on how many Gravelord skills you have on the bar. That's great and all, but again, which one of these skills are you going to use to execute somebody with, or to even use it in a situation like this. So let's say I have somebody at a low health and I have the death knell passive. That's great and all, but if I'm using class skills, you know, and this is doing dookie damage, that crit passive isn't helping much at all. So add execute scaling to the scythe, both morphs. That would really help add some use to this. You look at the Arcanist morph, or the Arcanist spammable. It has an immobilize, it has an execute, it has something called Abyssal Ink, which increases your damage done to them from your class skills. What does the scythe do? It gives you a hot. That's it. That's it. That is it. It gives you a hot. The other morph sets the opponent off balance, and I don't even think it does hemorrhaging anymore. But compare that to the Arcanist spammable. A class like Necro needs to have loaded skills like that. Now, the totems. The reason why I don't use the totems much, but this is supposed to be a stun. Okay, it's a fear, I should say. And while it's not bad, it's not a, you don't see too many people using it because nobody's just going to stand in this fear. As soon as I get this on my bar, I'll be able to show you. There it is. Okay, so here it comes up, and then after a few seconds it starts to fear in that area. Now it's fine if you want to keep people out of this area here, but that's fine. Your opponent can they're either just going to range you down, or they're going to walk out of the area and you're not hitting them with anything. You're not hitting them with that. You're not really going to be able to use that to stun anybody. Let's compare that fear to a much better one. Vampire fear is whatever, but Fighter's Guild, Circle of Protection. Thought I had to level it up more, but I don't. I must be thinking about a different character. So let's take off the heal and put on Circle of Protection. So look how fast this is. Bam, they're stunned just like that. They're feared, I mean. But totem, it comes up, there's a cast time. Let's count it. 1, 2, 3, 2 to 3 seconds before they actually get stunned by anything. This one, bam, just like that. So you have a skill which I also have to discuss, which is the Colossus. You have a skill, your main ultimate, that is so hard to connect with because people can just walk right out of it. You need to be able to stun them. This isn't going to work. You need a stun like that, and then you can actually have a chance to catch them with your Colossus. That's pretty much the only way. Why would you, as a designer or as a developer, give the Necromancers a skill that can just be walked out of if you're not going to give them a stun to keep them from walking out of it? So the other, I'm sure I don't have to explain all of this to people who play Necromancer, but for those who don't, you're going to get a good idea for how bad it is here. So let's take Ghostly Embrace. So we can kind of use this as a CC as well. But see, it'll snare. It has 3 circles on it. In one circle it snares, and in the second, let's read it. Enemies in the first area are snared by 30% for 7 seconds. Enemies in the second area for 6 seconds, and stunned in the final area for 5 seconds. So, depending on where they fall in this circle, and it takes some time to reach them, they will be stunned or immobilized. And when you're running around, you're in a fight, you're in a combat, that just doesn't cut it. That skill right there doesn't cut it as a stun or as a immobilize. DKs have great stuns and immobilizes. I can't show you because I'm not on the DK right now, but it's a world of difference from being able to instantly stun your opponent where you need them so that you can do what you need to do to take them out. So as I just showed you the Colossus, I need to be able to stun really to hit with that Colossus, or people will just walk out of it. They may take one hit at the most, but they're going to walk out of it. And so I need a more reliable. And look, this is the area, I think this is the area where it actually stuns, that last circle down there. So I think I would have to be here in order to get that to stun him, and then I might have a chance to hit him with that Colossus. And that travel time, most people are just going to see that coming and they're just going to dodge roll and get out of the way, or hit race against time. They're going to do something to avoid that. They're going to see that coming, then they're going to get out of the way. So, but we can make that worth using. If, let's go back to the Gravelord Sacrifice skill again. If you wanted to have this skill buff the Necromancer skills or damage over time or whatever you do, on top of snaring and immobilizing and stunning, that would be a great idea. Instead of taking away blast bones, add it to a skill like this that almost nobody uses. That would give it some actual reason to be used for those who don't like blast bones. Put it on a skill like this. As soon as you hit this person with this stun or with this skill, then they take more damage from you. That seems like a much better idea. Now to the totem again. What I would like to do with this is I would separate also this into 2. I would differentiate the morphs this way. So one grants minor protection while standing in the area of effect, and the other one, the agony totem, will afflict enemies in the area with minor vulnerability. Now one is targeted, one is just in the area. So this one pops up. This would be the agony totem. This one right here would affect people in the area who come into this area with minor vulnerability. So if they do want to fight me here, they're going to take more damage from me in this area where this totem is up at. The other one I can cast at a distance, or I can cast it anywhere, and that would give the people in that area minor protection. So if I was a healer, I could and I had a group over there, I could target my group with that totem and give them some protection. So my throat's getting kind of dry. It's kind of itchy now. I've been talking a while. Sorry about that. Now for um, the heal morphs, I just took it off. Let me put this back on. We can differentiate the heals a little bit more. One of them, okay, resistant flesh, there it is. This one gives you more resistance for taking a heal. When you do your heal, you recover like some resistance for how much you heal, and that's fine and great. This is pretty much the morph that everybody uses. Nobody uses the other morph because the other morph, all that does, sorry I have to cough, all that does is if you have a corpse on the ground and you use the heal, you can heal another target. That's pretty weak, or it's pretty lame to me. So here's what I would do. So this will be the defensive morph that gives you the extra resistances. In the other morph, I would change that one to, I would keep the name Blood Sacrifice, and I would change that to consume the corpse, and instead of healing a second target, it would actually grant you major courage for 10 seconds. So you have one heal that's defensive and the other heal that's offensive, so you can heal up and actually have more damage and just go back into battle with more damage, 10% more damage. And that would be, again, the Necromancer lacks major buffs. They don't have major sorcery, they don't have major prophecy, they don't have major courage, they don't have anything. So this would be a good way to give them another major buff for somebody who wanted to go more offensive after a heal. And let's see, so Expunge. This skill is not bad, but I would give it the Arcanist treatment, which means it right now it says while slotted reduces the cost of your ability by 3%. That effect should take place on both bars. When you have this slotted on either bar, all of your skills should cost 3% less. Like I said, it's the Arcanist treatment. And for the other skill, which is Bitter Harvest, I have the Deadened Pain morph. When you when you have this slotted on either bar, it doesn't matter which one, your damage taken is reduced by 3%. It's kind of, I'm not gonna lie, I mean, that's 3% is measly. So if you have this on your bar, and you can add that to both bars without breaking your character. Like, oh, I have 3% more damage reduction when I'm on this bar. Like, big deal, you know, big deal. Make it both bars. So, as I mentioned with the Colossuses, do I have? I don't think I have an ultimate up, but let's see if I have one up. Nope, I don't. Let's try to get it up. So, I got the wrong skills on my bar. I forgot. Anyway, let's just talk about it. So, like I said, when somebody drops the Colossus, most people are just going to hit this and they're going to get out of the way. They're going to take maybe one hit at the most, maybe possibly two, and then they're going to get out of the way. And when it comes to PvP, it's all about burst. So look at, compare it to Dawnbreaker. Dawnbreaker hits you one time, it's fast, it has a 0.4 second cast time, which sucks, unfortunately. Pestilent Colossus says it's instant, but it actually doesn't feel instant at all because it has to come up out of the ground and it has to hit. Like I said, most people are just going to get out of the way. So Dawnbreaker will hit you for about 12k. Colossus will hit, looking at my tooltips as they are, for like 9 up front, and pretty much the rest of it they're just gonna miss. They're just gonna get out of the way. So, and to be frankly honest, it's hard to play Necromancer without Dawnbreaker. It's like you need Dawnbreaker to really do anything. So what I would do with the morphs of the Colossus, the Frozen Colossus, that is the base morph. For that one, I would have the I'll leave that one as it is. Then the Glacial Colossus, which is the magical morph, or the let's just say the first morph. Sorry, my throat was so dry. That does frost damage, and it will stun the enemies on the second hit instead of the third hit. Because right now it stuns on the third hit. Most people in PvP are not going to stand there and get hit by 3 times at all. No way. So it has to. I'm being generous by saying the second hit. I would rather let it hit or stun on the first hit, but I know that would be kind of broken. So let it at least stun on the second hit. It comes up, boom, boom, and they're stunned, and then they have a chance to get hit by the third one, and that'll make it actually worthwhile using. And so for the the other morph, which is the one I have, the Pestilent Colossus, what I would do with this is I would make it more like Dawnbreaker. Instead of hitting 3 times, I would have the Colossus come out and hit 1 time. Let me actually put my right skills on so I can build up some ultimate. What do I got here? A Ghostly Embrace. So yeah, let me do something to build up some ultimate here. So I would have it come out of the ground, immediately hit 1 time, and then apply a damage over time to them, just like Dawnbreaker does. And again, Necromancers get a dot passive. Why not have actual sticky dots in the class? I know it's a crazy idea. It is a crazy idea. Why not give them sticky dots to use? So let's see, put that mortal coil back on there, and I will. Yep, Colossus is on. I get to animate blast bomb. Sorry, I don't have one of those things that gives you ultimate generation, so this I have to do. So let me just try to get this. I know light attack and then get the ultimate up quickly. Also consuming corpses. So I'm also just kind of tripping that people said it was too hard to use blast bombs every couple of seconds. Like, I'm not even like a major damage dealer in PvE, but it doesn't seem that hard to keep it up every 3 seconds. Anyway, do I got ultimate yet? Oh no, I don't. It's gonna take too long. Let's just skip to the. You got the point. It'll come out and hit 1 time like Dawnbreaker. Now the other, this is the final thing that I want to talk about. Animate blast bones. This skill is so cool. This skill is what, to me, being a Necromancer is all about an ESO. But unfortunately, look at that cost. 346 ultimate for a skill that requires you to have enough corpses on the ground, first of all, in order to get the maximum effect out of it. And if you have multiple targets, there's no guarantee that all your blast bones are going to hit the target that you want. You have no way to control where they go. So there's a real drawback to it, but it's so cool to use. It's just so thematically, it's just so cool. So the base morph of it is I forgot what the name of it is. Reanimate. and you can resurrect your allies with the skill. If your allies are dead on the ground, and up to 3 of them, right? And you use that skill, you instantly res them, right? You give them an instant res. But this morph of it, animate blast bones, when you res them, instead of bringing them back with more resources or either returning more resources to yourself, I can't remember which one it is, you actually summon 3 blast bones as well, or up to 3 blast bones. And so sometimes I can have 4 blast bones up at the same time. I will have this one plus the ones that I resed, and it's cool to see all 4 of them kind of stand up and then just go after the target. That's like the coolest ultimate in the game, hands down. To me, that is the coolest ultimate in the game, and it's locked behind a huge cost. So what I would do to improve this is I would remove the res aspect of it, just completely. You can keep the reanimate skill or the other one that reses your opponents, but this morph, the animate blast bones morph, I would make it only res your corpses as blast bones and drop the cost down to I would say make it comparable to the Colossus Ultimate, like 100. No, let's make it 200. All right, it's a cool ultimate. We can make it 200. I would rather have it be cheaper. We can make, I say 200. As it is right now, it's 346 ultimate. Of course, that's kind of made worse because of my vampire passives, which make it which increases the cost of skills. But this is how much it is for me right now, 346 without any real cost reduction on. I would just remove the res aspect of it and have it just only resurrect blast bones and reduce the cost so that you can actually have summons on your Necromancer. You can actually sort of play like a Necromancer because they're supposed to have summons, and there's not a whole lot of that, especially when you have skills that just aren't really worth slotting. So this has went on for a long time. I hope I was able to get the idea across kind of clearly, and I hope my coughing wasn't so bad. I am just getting over the flu too, so that didn't help either. But and I hope you were able to hear me clearly. I'm not used to recording through this means, so thank you all for watching, and I hope Zos will listen. I don't know why they would not. I mean, you're devs. I know you're busy. I know you have a hard time. I get it. But you have people who play the game. I've been playing day in, not day in. I've been playing almost daily, and I play this class a lot. I made this character. This was my second character. I made her as soon as Elsewhere dropped. I immediately made this character, and she was more of a hybrid when I first made her, and I have so much time on the Necromancer class. I don't want to sound presumptuous, but I don't think you've spent as much time playing the class as I have. So I think you could do well to take some of my advice. And I haven't even mentioned the fact that the class is just slow as dirt, doesn't have any movement skill built into it. So, this whole thing about stand your ground, this is something that ESO likes to, or the devs like to bring up sometime, which is having a class that can just stand your ground, just be in one place and just fight in one place. That's not how PvP works. It is not. If you stand in one place in PvP against multiple opponents, you are going to die. That is bottom line. Like this, if I had to stay in this zone and fight like 3 or 4 people, even 2 people, chances are I'm gonna die. If I'm up against 2 or 3 people, I need to get, I need to get line of sight. I'm dodging. I'm trying to hit people. I'm trying to single one person out. There's none of that stand your ground stuff in PvP. You got to get that out of your head. That's not how it works. And I don't mean that in an offensive way. Oh, look, I got some ultimate up. So I don't mean that in an offensive way, but it doesn't work that way. So anyway, I'm going to bring this video to a close. Thanks for watching.